So no, 2016. There's a bunch of anniversaries coming. We're gonna focus more on some first-party ones here, beginning with Zelda.
Yeah.
Zelda's 30th anniversary. You could imagine 2016 should be a big year for Zelda. Already on the books, we know that there are 3 related Nintendo Zelda-related projects: Hyrule Warriors Legends counts, Zelda Twilight Princess HD, which we're going to talk about in a second, a little more in detail, and Zelda Wii U.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one that was shown 2 years ago or a year ago, or 2 years ago, and we got really excited for it.
And
then,
I want to play.
Yes, I want to play so
Now.
badly. So this week, Famitsu had a 4-page spread on Twilight Princess HD that, for the most part, shared absolutely nothing new outside of 2 things that folks noticed in the images of that story. The first is that the max rupee counter is higher. We are that desperate. We live in a world where we are that desperate for news on Twilight Princess HD.
I remember that being a good thing because I think that was kind of a pain in that game, right?
Yes.
Yes.
There's an arm. Remember the armor that runs down your rupee count too? Was that in that game or was that in Skyward
I don't know. I
Sword?
can't hear you over the scraping of the bottom of the barrel right now. Keep talking. What you
All
say?
right, well, it's fine. No, but I do remember rupees became meaningless, and that happens. Like some of the Zelda games are not balanced well. The economy is not balanced well.
Okay.
You
But
know?
Jose, to be
like
fair,
Skyward Sword, you could buy more shields and things, but Twilight Princess was not like that.
Whereas,
To be fair, Jose,
A Link
it's-
Between Worlds, you were like a rapper with all the money you had.
it's
Keep going.
a good problem to have when your game is so good that when you do an HD port of it 10 years later, the changes you have to make are pretty minimal.
Oh, no, totally.
Wind
Yeah.
Waker was kind of in the same scenario. Like, I don't want a Star Wars Special Edition type of scenario here where all of a sudden all these things get totally changed.
No,
Yeah.
totally. And I hate to sound so sarcastic with that. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm expecting Nintendo to come out and make some of these announcements. I mean, we all just got back from Christmas break, so I'm
Right.
sure that they are planning, and that Nintendo Direct is going to be a lot of fun in January. You hear me, guys?
You
I'm
hyped
saying
it up to
January.
the heavens.
Better be in January is all I'm saying. Maybe early February. At
Maybe
latest.
tomorrow.
So that's a small upgrade, but it's
And the other
appreciated.
upgrade, and the other upgrade is less tiers of light to collect.
Or fewer, but yes.
Or fewer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot. You're on our you're on the show.
no.
Fewer
You're
tiers of
making
light
much
to
mistakes
collect.
today.
And this was based on Famitsu's 4-page spread.
Yep.
Lastly, a few more details.
Which, by the way,
came
is
out
not
today.
something they said. Like
No,
it was,
this is just in a picture.
It was just in
And
screenshots.
People
Okay,
started counting.
I read Famitsu when I was in Japan, and it was always very apparent that like these publishers would just drop off 30 screenshots, and then Famitsu would go like, look at this, a cat
Yeah.
eating a monkey. We
Yeah.
wonder what's going on here. That was always the captions.
Well,
you
it
know?
was very Nintendo Power in the 80s and 90s too, right?
Yep.
Where they would just get like a map of Mega Man and they would just draw the bosses on the side
Yeah.
and they'd be like,
Yeah.
looks like that wily cat is back again. You're like, what?
That is really pretty much how the Famitsu story read. It
Yeah.
was like, hey, look at these characters, and this is what it looked like on Wii, and
But-
now this is what it looks like today.
The tiers go up to 11 now and not 15, right?
It depends on the location.
Okay.
There's been 2 different counts I've seen based on. Again, this is how desperate we are,
Yeah.
Nintendo,
But it's
for
like,
information.
you know,
on
when
this
you
game.
go, when you play, when you do the rewind theater on the pictures, and obviously lots of fans online have done that.
Yeah.
You realize, okay, Link is left-handed again in these pictures, so it's based on the GameCube code. It doesn't tell you whether it has the Wii code in it,
Which
where
we're
you
dying
can
to
flip it
know.
and do motion controls. Probably not,
Yeah, 'cause
right?
that's-
You think it's
that's
not
gonna
going to
mess
be in
me
it,
up.
I
right?
don't think it's in it because it's an optional experience where most Wii U's don't have that controller.
Yeah,
And who still has a Wii remote around? Like,
But that's
for the most
so
part?
it's so weird because most people play that game on Wii.
yeah.
Agree.
So,
Yeah.
So they're gonna
anyone who goes
play
to
the
revisit
mirror-
is going to play the mirrored
The
version.
mirror version, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So strange.
Classic Nintendo.
So then
We'll see.
Amazon France, excuse me, had a listing for Zelda Twilight Princess HD, which revealed the following info. First of all, hero mode, no duh. Like, why would it not have hero mode?
Which is what?
That's
The-
a thing since Skyward Sword that, well, they've started it now that when you start the game, but just that you take damage.
Harder.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a more difficult version, and you don't get hearts from cutting anything
You know what?
down.
I
you
feel-
have to use potions.
Yeah.
I feel vindicated, by the way. Like I said this when I first played Wind Waker, and I was sitting with Nintendo folks in their booth at E3, and I said, "Why don't you have adjustable difficulty? Because falling into lava and losing a quarter of a heart is stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be scared of falling into the lava." And they're like, "Oh, we don't want to do that. We don't want to, like segment it." And somebody
Was
has a bad
Aonuma in the room?
experience, and like I
was like,
forget who was in there, but they were really, really opposed to the concept of
Okay.
adjustable difficulty. So it's good to see it now, though.
So
Yeah,
more
I love
from
that.
from Sacre Bleu from from France. Wii U gamepad will be used to manage the player's inventory in real time. Again, not a huge surprise. this is where we start getting interesting. Link, Toon Link, Zelda, and Sheik. It's missing Ganondorf in this list. When activated, will replenish hearts or arrows.
What does that
They've
mean?
said that other Zelda-related amiibo will
amiibo.
somehow work in the game.
Well,
if they
Ganondorf should not replenish anything. You take damage.
You
when
should
you
take him
scan
away.
it.
I love that.
That actually, I like that idea. We should get in touch with them. Right? Wolf Link amiibo is set to unlock a new dungeon, which loosely translates to the Cave of Twilight.
Get out.
From the French.
Okay, you can't make all this up. This sounds plausible.
Yeah.
This sounds plausible. So I
Amazon
still would
France
take
stays
some of
snitching on
this with
stuff
a
like this.
stay snitching. I would take any of this with a grain of salt because, take for example, and this is an isolated incident, but I just want to set expectations for people because I feel like you always should live in a world where expectations are set. The GameCube controller adapter, when it was coming out, there was a story run saying, "Oh, this is going to work on a virtual console. This is going to work across multiple software." And I think we sat in this room. I don't remember, but I was pretty sure every time that story came up in our newsroom, I was like, "No way, only Smash Brothers. I bet you this is just a retailer listing that got carried away." And that's what ended up happening.
So that information was in a retailer
That
listing?
was in a retailer listing. I think
Somebody
Best
was
Buy,
just kind of
Best Buy
riffing.
put it in. This was U.S. It wasn't French. Maybe the French are more honest.
Yeah.
But it was there. People spun it into a bunch of stories, and then came the inevitable wave of disappointment when it did not support those things,
Yeah.
and a bunch of people going, I wanted it to do that. I want to use my GameCube game controller on everything. This is not fair, Nintendo. Wham, wham, wham.
Okay, but I can see how somebody creating that listing and the original information is, play your favorite games with the GameCube controller, and then got carried away a little bit.
No.
writing
It's
it up.
not as
That's
specific.
different. Yeah.
It's not as specific, but I would still say you never know. So it sounds very plausible. I think it is real. I also think a reminder to folks: if this Wolf Link amiibo does unlock a new dungeon, don't forget that Wolf Link amiibo also works with new Zelda when it comes out.
Does that make you
in
mad,
November.
by the way?
No, it's fine.
Wait, weren't you mad when in Splatoon?
I was, but let
It
me tell you the
unlocked the
difference.
challenges?
I'm glad you asked this question. Let me tell you the
I already
difference.
know the answer,
You
but
do.
I want him to
That
share it.
Twilight Princess is a much bigger, longer game. There's a lot more to do in that game. So if you did hide a dungeon behind amiibo, I'm not offended by that because at the end of the day, I am a big enough consumer in Nintendo products that I don't mind buying that to experience that dungeon. I'm sure there are going to be some people writing in the minute I said that going, absolutely not. This is an outrage. I'm being nickel and dimed for $13.99 for a new dungeon that might just last 2 minutes. I object, sir. I would just say, look, so far I'm sold on it. I'm okay with it. I don't think this is a bad thing.
Also,
Zelda is a 60-plus hour game. You have plenty to do.
Yeah. Also, the only way to buy this game currently is with the amiibo, unless you go digital.
Oh,
So
is
that
that
is
the
literally your
truth?
only option. Although that version has actually been sold out on Amazon for a while, so maybe this whole
know,
thing
I
will
saw
be
that.
screwy. I think it's funny to me because Wind Waker was the game that needed the extra dungeon. Twilight Princess is doing fine
Well, it
on
had an
dungeons.
it had
Twilight Princess has a lot
Twilight
of stuff
Twilight
in
Princess
it.
is a lot of
Yeah.
dungeons. Wind Waker has like what 5?
It would be
Many.
cool.
6?
It would be cool if this dungeon somehow ties to events though in New Zelda, like just out of
Or
like
it's like
some
a classic
crazy-
reboot, like something you've experienced
Maybe even
before,
that,
done
yeah.
in the new style. No, I'm excited by that. Granted, I would buy this amiibo anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Did you
Goodbye.
guys play Link's Awakening, the Game Boy Color version, DX?
Yes.
So that one had a color dungeon.
Whoa.
That you could only
That's right.
play. Sounds weird.
batten down the handshakes.
Yeah. that you
what's
could
going
only
on
play
there?
on a Game Boy Color, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When you played it on a Game Boy Color, it just showed up that way, and it didn't exist in the original version. And it was short and it was kind of gimmicky, but it was also kind of cool to just be like, here's an extra little thing in some cave in the corner. You bomb some wall that wasn't bombable before, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you go in and there's this new thing they patched in. I think that stuff's kind of interesting. I don't think it's going to be too integral to the overall story of it. Ultimately, I've seen Amiibo from the start as a cool statue collectible that has a secondary bonus of unlocking content, and I don't see it as the other way around. It always bothers me when people do, when they're like, I gotta buy the Amiibo just to unlock this thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you get a cool figure, and as a bonus, you get a cool thing. Like,
yeah.
because
That's
I bought,
what it's
I
gotta
bought,
be about.
Whenever-
I bought DLC where I don't get a cool figure.
When it
you know?
remains to be seen if, in this particular instance, if the Cave of Twilight if that's the magical name for
You know
the
what?
Took, will that be unlocked by regular means if you didn't have the amiibo?
Well,
Sure.
it also remains to be seen that it's not just a wolf-based challenge dungeon where you fight enemies with your head
I
claw.
love when we manage expectations on the
A
show.
wolf,
You know
I like that. A
'Cause-
wolf-based challenge dungeon.
Well,
That's-
you remember the combat against the what were they called? What would the dark side people call? Jesus.
The
Gar-
dark side.
garbage
So
ghosts?
Keep going. Keep
No,
going.
they're not
It's
garbage
okay.
ghosts.
Rastas. Keep going. What do you got?
Yeah.
They had tentacles.
Yeah.
They had
The
dreadlocks?
Ing. No, that's Metroid.
Yeah.
But
Ing.
I felt that combat was the least successful part of it, right? Like where you highlight all three to take them out because otherwise they go "Wah!" and wake each other up again. Like it was fun a couple of times, and then I'm like, oh no, now it's gonna turn. After a while, it turned into the tank from Arkham.
I actually think
That
a lot
was
of
a
that.
repetitive thing you
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
like
yeah.
doing.
I think a lot of that nausea came from the fact that the motion controls didn't really make sense for that character. Yeah, like just thrashing around as a wolf with your wrist didn't make as much sense as like I'm holding a sword with the nunchuck and the Wii remote, like sword and shield scenario. So
Maybe that's why, yeah. But I'm
be it.
hoping it's not. Please don't be that kind of Cave of Twilight.
wait, hold on. Quick question then. If they're going with the GameCube version, that means they're getting rid of the motion controls, right?
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if the gamepad has motion controls for aiming. Don't forget that.
for aiming, yeah.
Wind
Yeah.
Waker HD, for example.
But so does this mean they're getting rid of
Woulda,
the
shoulda, coulda.
Yeah, Elmer Fudd. The Wii remote nunchuck combination of like sword and shield.
I thought I saw a putty cat.
What do you think?
I don't know. I was going to quote Elmer
You
Fudd,
think
sorry.
it's not in, right? You think the
I don't
Wii
think
controls
it
are
is.
not in.
No, I don't think they are.
It
It doesn't sound like they're
I
in.
feel like it'd be really weird that they didn't have that alternate quest because it's something that they can. It's not that hard to put in here, and they would basically have an entire mirror mode in the game,
right.
with the alternate controls and give you the choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, every picture so far has been the GameCube version,
Yeah.
which is, I
like
prefer
my
to play
buttons.
that now. I
Yeah, I like
like
my
my
buttons.
buttons,
Yeah.
but I do like aiming with the controller.
And
I
I've
thought
heard,
that
I've heard
was
some
cool.
people say they prefer the motion and the sword and shield
Yeah.
bit. I'm not
To
that
each his
guy,
own,
but
so.
no, yeah, to each his
I,
own.
I
no,
like
no
how Wind
disrespect.
Waker handled it. You know,
Sir or
whereas
madam.
traditional buttons, you could use the map and you can also aim with the.
Yeah.
with-
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the case. I think the
Yeah.
motion stuff will just
Yeah.
be adapted to tilting your gamepad back
Yep.
and forth for aiming and stuff like that.